Hi, welcome to this high-level presentation covering Tivoli Storage Manager FastBack for Workstation, also known as CDP. Today we're going to cover what is FastBack for Workstation and what is CDP. Then we'll take a look at the features in the FastBack for Workstation client and the features of the FastBack for Workstation Central Administrator Console. To start out with, what is CDP? Well, CDP stands for Continuous Data Protection, and it's a backup paradigm that uses a unique hybrid approach, and that is a hybrid between replication and traditional backup. And the way it does this is it does the replication portion in the fact that it does a two-disk copy. So it's making a copy of your files into a local cache on your machine. And it does this the second that that file is either saved or closed. This gives you this continuous data protection, and because it's copying files directly to the local workstation, it's tolerant of transient networks. Your network doesn't have to be up and running in order for it to be backing up and making copies. But we can also have it direct these backups to multiple targets, where we can keep multiple versions of the files we're backing up. We can do a point-in-time restore, and we have a central administrator that can be implemented if you're managing a lot of CDP clients. We also have the concept of vaulting, so we'll talk about all of these individual pieces here and how that makes up CDP or FastBack for Workstation. FastBack for Workstation is a product that's targeted at workstations and laptops. And it's going to provide overall cost savings for businesses by improving the backup resource utilization, because we're eliminating that backup time or that lack of backup if your laptop's offline when the scheduled backup kicks off. It helps improve recovery point objective by providing real-time backup so that if a failure does occur, we can restore to the last version you were working on or some other point in time. Improves recovery time objective because you're able to restore from the backups that are kept directly on your workstation or laptop, or if those are no longer available because the laptop's been destroyed or stolen, then you can restore from a remote location. When a file is saved, we always keep a copy on the local disk in that cache. And then at a later point in time, we can send an additional copy off to either Tivoli Storage Manager, some type of file server or NAS device, or some type of web target. What I'm going to be concentrating on in this presentation is the saving to the local cache and then the offloading a copy to Tivoli Storage Manager. So let's start by looking at the FastBack for Workstation client. The first thing you need to know about FastBack for Workstation, it is extremely easy to use. It's extremely easy to install. It's extremely easy to use. And FastBack for Workstation can be used on its own or in conjunction with the admin console. So what we're looking at right here is the screen you would get if you went into your FastBack for Workstation client. You can see here you have an icon showing the files that you're protecting. And if you hover over that icon, it'll show you which files are being protected. We also have the local storage, so you can see how much of your local storage cache has been utilized, as well as the remote storage that you've set up and how many files are pending to be sent out to that remote storage and how much of that remote storage space has been utilized. Now, the FastBack for Workstation client is currently supported on Microsoft Windows 7, Microsoft Windows 8, Microsoft Windows Server 2008, Microsoft Windows Server 2012, and Microsoft Windows 8.1. Now, like I said, it's very easy to install. And after you've installed the code, then it'll walk you through a wizard for setting up what you want to protect and where you want to protect those files to on your laptop or on your workstation. So the first piece it'll ask is, which files do you want to protect? What's critical for us to back up? And so you can either type in the file extensions or you can go through the list here and choose the extensions or the application files that you want to protect. Now, it's important that I say we protect application files. We're not backing up the applications. Next, you'll be prompted if you want to protect any of your email application files. And so in this case, you can go through and select either the Lotus Notes, the Microsoft Outlook, or you can specify another one that you want to protect. Now, email files are backed up on a scheduled basis. They're not backed up using the CDP concept. And this is because the email files are typically very large, and so it doesn't make sense to try and back them up continuously. Also, email files are only backed up to remote storage. If the remote storage is not available when the schedule kicks off, we'll simply wait until it does become available. You can specify how many versions you want to keep of those email files, and you can also choose not to protect your email files. You'll then choose if you want your files also to be copied off to some type of remote storage. And now remember, this remote storage could be a Tivoli Storage Manager server that's already existing in your environment. It could be a web server, it could be a file server, or it could be an external device like a USB drive. Now these files are sent to the remote locations on a scheduled basis, but if your network is not up when that schedule kicks off, it'll wait until that network becomes available. Or for instance, if you're backing up to a USB attached device, it'll wait until it sees that USB attached device connected, and then it'll do the backup out there. If you are going to Tivoli Storage Manager, you can utilize the TSM client deduplication so that you're sending your FastBack for Workstation files deduplicated across the network to the TSM server's deduplication storage pools. Now, once you've set up what you want to protect, where you want it to go to, how many versions you want to keep, then you'll kick off your initial backup. And you can choose to back up those files immediately once the configuration wizard is finished, or to wait for a while and then do the initial backup of those files. There is additional configuration you can set up. One of the pieces you'll want to do is to specify how much space you want to allocate for your local cache. By default, the local cache is kept in a real-time backup folder, and you can just go out into File Explorer and see that. And then underneath that real-time backup, you'll simply see the same structure as exists on the drives that you're protecting. Here you can see I am backing up my C directory called critical. In fact, you can just go out into that real-time backup directory and look at the files and look at the different versions of those files that you're protecting. You can also choose how long to keep those files out in the real-time backup local cache, when to expire them once those files have actually been deleted off of your local system. So obviously you want to keep them for a little bit of time in case you accidentally deleted them. FastBack for Workstation does have some simple performance tuning pieces you can set up. One of these includes network throttling. So you can decide how much you want to throttle the backup so that they don't utilize the entire bandwidth when you are sending files to remote locations. You can create numerous rules, but the way that the FastBack for Workstation will determine which rule is used is it will find the first rule in the list that matches one of the connected networks, and then it'll use those as the current throttling value. You can also specify the maximum size of the files that you want to back up locally, as well as the maximum size of the files that you want to send offsite. One nice thing about FastBack for Workstations when it is running on your laptop or workstation is that you can easily see the status of FastBack just by looking in your tray icon. FastBack will flash some information if it's in normal status, or if for some reason it's been disconnected from the remote backup, or if there's some type of error out there, or if it's been paused. So all of these nice little messages show up directly in the Windows system tray. With FastBack for Workstation, one of the nice things is its flexibility in where you send those offsite files. You might choose to send a secondary copy to a file server. You might choose to send that secondary copy to a TSM server. Or you could send those secondary copies to a file server and then have a TSM client on that file server which backs up to the TSM server. So if you didn't want to install a TSM client on all of your laptops and workstations, you could just install that TSM client on the file server that your FastBack for Workstation is replicating to. You can go over the LAN or over the WAN out to the TSM server, or even over a SAN. which will give you land free to disk. We can also go to some type of remote office or remote office server to do our remote location backups to. So overall, FastBack for Workstation gives you a lot of flexibility in where you send that second copy of files to be protected on an offsite location. The importance of an offsite location is if your laptop or desktop has a hardware failure or if it's stolen, you'll still be able to get those files back from the remote location. So what does a restore look like? Most often you'll be doing a restore directly from your local cache. And so all you'll do is click on the restore option. You'll get to choose, do you want to restore to the original location or to a different location? And then you'll get a list of the files that you've backed up. And you can go in and you can choose an entire directory. You can choose a point in time for individual files or for an entire backup. So you have a lot of flexibility in what gets restored and where it gets restored to. If you wanted to restore from a remote location, in this case I'm showing the restore from Tivoli Storage Manager, you can search for the specific file name you want to restore, or you could do a directory or whatever. And then you can also choose, do I want to restore the current version or a previous version of that file? Once again, you can also restore that to the original location or to a new location. FastBack for Workstation also has a concept of vaulting. And what vaulting is it keeps files from being changed. So if you have vaulted a file, that file will not be able to be changed. So you can go through and you can add the files that you want to go untouched. Maybe you have some type of tax returns or other pieces of information on your workstation that you don't want to be altered at all. And you can assign them to be vaulted. In the future, if you wanted to be able to change those, you would have to go in and unvault those particular files or folders. So what we just looked at was the FastBack for Workstation client. This is the portion that would be installed on a laptop or desktop. It can be run standalone, or if you are in an organization that's managing hundreds or thousands of these FastBack for Workstation clients, you would also want to install and utilize the Central Administration Console. The Central Administration Console makes it easy to know what's going on with all your FastBack clients. You can set up standards to configure those clients. So you can say, okay, each client, this is the number of versions I want to keep. This is the network throttling I want to do. This is the types of files I want to protect. You can have all of these configuration pieces assigned via your central admin console. We also have tools which will help you get an overview of your environment with reports, as well as being able to go out and put a patch or fix that needs to be pushed out to the FastBack for Workstation clients. The admin console is supported on Microsoft Windows Server 2008 and Microsoft Windows Server 2012. So the first screen here shows the monitoring of the clients, and underneath the monitoring we have the ability to look at the health of the clients, the storage utilization, and the deployment status of those clients. If we're looking at the health monitor, we can see the status of those clients based upon alerts, and I'll talk about alerts here in a bit. But basically you'll see if they're working okay or if there's some type of warning or error out there that the administrator needs to pay attention to. We can view the activity logs for those particular clients. We can view the last known configuration settings for the clients and assign those clients to groups or send scripts to those clients. You can also take a look at the date of the last time it reported in. And if you wanted to do any types of changes to the configuration of the clients, we could do that from here as well. This screen shows the storage utilization, so we can see that the TSM2 client is currently assigned 500 megabytes and is currently utilizing 18 megabytes of storage. We can also see which FastBack for Workstation client version is running on that machine, as well as what operating system is running on that client and when the last full backup was taken. Group configuration allows you to put various clients into a specific group, and then this group can be assigned specific settings for how they should be protected with FastBack for Workstations. So once you've assigned multiple clients to a group, you can then manage them with one single action. So when the configuration for a group is changed, all of the members in that group will receive the changes to that configuration. So for instance, if I wanted to start protecting files with the ending .doc, if I made that change to the group configuration, then all of the clients in that group would then start protecting .doc files. Now a group can have 0 or more members in it, and if you add a new member to a group, it will automatically adopt that group configuration. FastBack for Workstation also has the concept of alerting, and user-defined alerts are allowed to identify things like low space or maybe having not backed up. And when an alert occurs, these alerts can be emailed out to different administrators, as well as having their status show up in FastBack for Workstation console, along with the particular severity that you assigned to that specific alert. FastBack for Workstation Administrator Console also has built-in reporting. You can utilize the 4 reports that come with FastBack for Workstation right out of the box, or you can also go out there and create your own reports from scratch or based upon the existing reports. This report is our client total reports. It shows the total data flow for each client over the specified period. This one is the historical total report, and it shows the data flow through the system over time. And this can be shown for the entire system, for 1 or more FastBack servers, or for 1 or more groups or 1 specific client. You can also show the FastBack for Workstation server totals. So in this case, we can see, for instance, the TSM server, how much data has been sent to it by FastBack for Workstations. There's also a summary total, which can summarize data by, for instance, the hour of the day, the days of the week, the days of the month, the days of the year, the week of the year, or the month of the year. And so here we're showing a particular client over the last 30 days. Now there are various settings that the administrator can manipulate. These include the alerts that we spoke about, as well as being able to create custom scripts. We can put a script out there that'll then be pushed out to the individual clients. Now the way that this pushing out of scripts, as well as pushing out of patches and fixes, as well as the ability to collect information about the individual clients, all of this is done through a folder, an administrative folder. And so the administrator will set up a folder and will make sure that that folder is accessible to all of the clients. The folder will have 2 levels. The first level is a computer-specific subfolder, and there'll be 1 per FastBack for Workstation client out there. And in this computer-specific folder, FastBack for Workstation Admin Console will pick up reports from the clients, as well as be able to push out specific downloads for that specific client. Now, if you wanted to push out something to an entire group, that's the second level of folders. There is a group administrative subfolder that applies to all of the computers that share that specific administration folder. And so in there, I could put, for instance, downloads, which would then be pushed out to all of those clients. So here's a picture of administrator folders, and you can see how the central administration console is able to push configurations and commands out to the folders, and then those are going to be downloaded by the FastBack clients. And on the other hand, the FastBack client will push status and activity reports out to the folders, and the central admin server will pick them up from there, and from that create alerts and status reports. So administrator folders are a great way for the administrator to communicate with the clients and do things like push out fixes, as well as gather information about the backup statuses. The administrator can also do customized scripts. For instance, a typical script at initial discovery contains a command to back up all the files, or an administrator could create a custom script to address a specific problem. For example, if the network was impacted by remote backup activity, they could send out a command to specify clients immediately pause remote backup until the network had been cleaned out. Okay, so what we just looked at was the FastBack for Workstation Administration console, which gives you the ability to manage thousands of FastBack for Workstation clients. From the FastBack from Workstation Administrative Console, you can gather information about the status of the different clients, as well as being able to push out information like patches, fixes, or customized scripts. This chart looks at the features and benefits of FastBack for Workstation. This including the continuous data protection, which allows us to back up files the instant that they're changed, being able to restore to a specific point in time, being able to back up those files to remote locations at a periodic schedule, being able to back up only the changed files. FastBack for Workstation, both when we do the local cache backup as well as when we back up to remote locations, is just backing up new or changed files. By backing up to a local cache, the end user is able to instantly restore files even if there's no network in place. And by backing up to a remote location, the end user has assurance that if something happens to their local copies, they can always go out to the remote location to do their restores. FastBack for Workstation is an extremely easy to use product. It's very straightforward both in its graphics and usability. It provides data protection for workstations and laptops utilizing Windows operating system. It provides continuous data protection, CDP, so that the instant files are saved or closed, a copy of them is backed up to the local cache. And then on a scheduled basis, the files in the local cache are sent to either a TSM server, a file server, or some type of web target. So thanks for your time today. Please do go out and listen to some of the other introductory presentations we have on Tivoli Storage Manager products, as well as some of the more advanced demos that are available on YouTube.